Welcome. You've brought us something fascinating for our deep dive today. Fred Fearnot's pluck, or his race to save a life.
That's right. It's from Work and Win, #6, January 13th, 1899.
Wow, 1899. And it might seem, just like a simple adventure story. Young man, skating tournament, saving a life.
Exactly. We're looking at bits from this old magazine aimed at young readers back then. And yeah, on the surface, it's old-fashioned fun, right?
But that's the whole point of this deep dive, isn't it? Our mission here is to kind of peel back the layers of Fred Fernot's adventures and
Yeah.
see what this seemingly simple story tells you, the listener, about the values back then, what people expected of young men, even just how they had fun.
Yeah, leisure activities, social stuff, it's all in there.
Think of it as a quick but, well, thorough look into American life over a century ago.
Absolutely. It's amazing how even entertainment like this, it works like a snapshot, you
Yeah.
know? It shows you things about the era that might actually surprise you.
Okay, let's get into it. The story kicks off with Fred talking to his dad about his future, and Fred, well, he's got some pretty grand ideas.
Oh, he does. Full of youthful optimism, maybe a bit unrealistic. He jokes about wanting to be governor, senator, even president.
Right, all before he can even vote. And then he plans to retire.
Yeah, it's clearly meant to be funny, but, what might you, listening now, take away from that, this sort of youthful ambition, even if it is a bit much?
That's a good question. It sets a tone, doesn't it? Like aiming high. And his father's reaction is interesting too.
Very. He tells Fred, basically, slow down a bit. Prepare for a career, sure, but enjoy life, too.
Build good habits.
Yeah.
Except maybe joking quite so much, the father adds.
Right, that little humorous aside, but the core message, it seems to be about balance.
Balance.
Yeah,
And the father isn't just shutting him down, he's guiding him.
exactly. Combining leisure with getting ready for the future and the mention of travel being part of learning. That's interesting, too.
Suggests a value on broader experiences, maybe, not just book learning.
Could be. It tells you something about the priorities, maybe, for a well-rounded young man back then.
And then there's that funny bit, maybe a bit stereotypical even for 1899, about mothers and wives.
Ah, yes. The father tells Fred, kind of smiling, don't ever think you can fool your mother.
Because she understands him and his father better than they understand themselves.
And then he adds that wives usually figure out their husbands long before the husbands figure them out.
It's pretty funny. What does that tell you, the listener, about family dynamics, or at least the perception of them?
Well, it gives you a little glimpse, doesn't it? Maybe a common idea about maternal intuition or the complexities within marriage. It's done with humor, but it probably hit home for readers.
What kind of humor does that suggest about the audience's view of family roles, you think?
Maybe it hints at pretty established ideas, but ones they could also laugh about.
And Fred, he's just full of confidence, assures his dad he'll succeed just like him.
Yeah, that father-son thing shows the influence or maybe the pressure of having a successful parent.
It definitely pushes that idea of upward mobility. Like his father says, with pluck and energy, you could follow in your father's footsteps.
Or even go further. What does that tell you about the values being pushed onto young readers? Aim high, work hard.
Seems like it. Okay, so from talking about the future, Fred heads off to visit his classmate, Terry Olcott, in a place called Fredonia.
And he doesn't just show up. He arrives bearing gifts. Lots of gifts.
This part is great for showing the social customs. You should really pay attention here.
Totally. Fred brings a silk scarf for Mrs. Olcott,
Gloves and really nice skates for Terry's sister, Evelyn.
cigars for Mr. Olcott, tons of toys for the kids, even something for the stableman.
Wow. What does all that gift-giving suggest? About expectations, relationships?
It definitely shows generosity was important, maybe expected, and just general social niceties were a big deal.
And we meet Evelyn, Terry's sister. She's described as nice and bright as sunshine. Sounds like she and Fred get along well.
Yeah, the text says her jolly way was in complete harmony with his. They seem to have this easy friendship, sharing jokes and stories.
That highlights how important maybe good company and lightheartedness were in socializing back then.
Definitely suggests a comfortable kind of connection. What do you think that emphasis on shared humor says about friendships then?
Maybe a bit more informal, less guarded. We also get a quick mention of Sadie Stevens,
Ah, yes, the vain beauty.
whose life Fred saved from a fire earlier.
So that sets up some potential social drama, right?
For sure. Terry's letter even hinted she wanted to see Fred again.
So Fred's heroism is already established in your mind as the reader, and Sadie's description, well, it hints at maybe some superficiality.
Exactly. How do you think Fred's past heroism affects how people see him now and how he handles these social things?
Probably gives him a certain status, maybe creates expectations, and the banter between Fred, Terry, and Evelyn feels really natural.
It does. Terry teases Fred about some high school girl, and they just go back and forth. It feels like real young people talking. Shows that typical teasing among friends. What can you, the listener, infer about how young men and women interacted from that?
Well, it seems like a bit of playful teasing, maybe even light flirtation,
Yeah.
was totally normal, even expected.
Okay, so next up is the skating tournament on the lake. This sounds like a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah, a great carnival on the ice. Lots of young people came from all over.
The description really emphasizes the crowd, the festive vibe. It suggests these kinds of big outdoor events were really central to life back then.
What do you think the scale of this says about community and maybe outdoor fun at the time?
Seems vital, doesn't it? And Sadie Stevens shows up again, tries to get all of Fred's attention.
But he handles it well. Polite, but firm, and turns his attention back to Evelyn.
And they skate together, really gracefully. The text even says, like a pair of lovers.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That definitely contrasts the relationships. Fred's clearly got a preference.
And it says something about Fred's character, too, right? He's courteous, but not easily swayed. What might that imply about qualities valued in, say, a romantic partner back then?
Maybe that genuine connection mattered more than just, surface charm.
Could be. Then there's this spontaneous skating race. Fred versus some guy named Coleman.
And Fred, naturally, is a great skater. He's playful about it, competitive, but in a fun way,
He even makes a bet a pair of skates for Evelyn.
which she later gives to someone else, Mary Hamilton. Shows Evelyn's generous, too.
The race itself just shows off Fred's skill again. He wins easily, teases Coleman a bit.
And Coleman gets frustrated. But it highlights Fred's confidence, his athletic side. What does this mix of competition and generosity show you?
Maybe that playful rivalry was fine as long as it didn't get nasty. And generosity was key.
And when Coleman's annoyed, Fred just says his skill is from practice, not coaching.
Yeah, emphasizing hard work, self-improvement.
Exactly. A little message for the young readers, perhaps. That dedication pays off, even in fun stuff. How might that have shaped kids' attitudes towards getting good at things?
Probably encourage them to practice more. Okay, but then things get really serious. The runaway sleigh.
Ah, yes. High drama. And Mrs. Sedgwick is in a sleigh and the horse just bolts.
And it's heading towards danger, a part of the lake where the ice was cut. Deep water.
The description really sets the scene: horse at full speed, reins dragging. You feel the immediate danger.
And Fred, he just takes off after it. No hesitation.
On skates, people watching are wondering if he's crazy, a lunatic.
It's shown as incredibly brave, maybe reckless, but immediate. Evelyn's worried, Terry's confident but unsure. It builds the suspense for you.
What does Fred's instant reaction tell us about the ideal of heroism back then?
Gotta be proactive, selfless, maybe. You hear the woman crying out, Fred yelling reassuring words.
And the story really plays up the danger, not just for her, but for Fred. The deep water, the risk of being pulled in with skates on.
The author does a good job making you feel how risky it was. What part of that would have thrilled a young reader most, do you think?
Probably just the sheer nerve of it, the speed, the danger.
And then he does it, catches the horse, hangs onto the bit until help arrives.
Mrs. Sedgwick faints. The crowd goes wild, praising his pluck. That word from the title.
Right, and Fred himself is just wiped out, totally exhausted, almost collapses.
That moment he catches the horse, that's the peak. The crowd's reaction, the word pluck, it hammers home that value placed on courage, on action. His exhaustion makes the bravery feel real for you.
And then Mr. Sedgwick arrives, her husband, recognizes Fred as Judge Fearnot's son.
That adds another layer, doesn't it? Social connections, maybe reinforcing Fred's good standing. How might that recognition have boosted his heroic image even more?
Well, probably added respectability, maybe made the act seem even bigger in the community's eyes. So after the rescue, they're back at the hotel.
Evelyn's obviously worried about Fred. Mr. Sedgwick is so grateful he plans to telegraph Fred's father.
Shows the concern, the recognition of how brave he was. And telling the father, what does that suggest about family pride?
Highlights strong family ties, maybe. Pride in the son doing something honorable.
Sadie Stevens pops up again, asks if Fred's hurt, and Mary Hamilton remarks on Sadie's beauty, wondering why Fred isn't smitten.
That brings back those social dynamics. Mary's comment kind of points out the contrast between expected attraction, Sadie's looks, and where Fred's attention actually is.
What does that suggest? Maybe character trumps beauty.
Perhaps. or at least genuine connection does. Then we get that nice quiet scene, Fred and Evelyn just sitting together, watching the other skaters.
Yeah, their comfortable silence says a lot, doesn't it? And Fred gives her some playful compliments.
It really underscores the affection between them. Feels more real than any potential thing with Sadie. What does that quiet affection suggest about courtship, then?
Maybe more gradual, less showy. Then there's a funny bit where Fred teases another guy, Haygood, about squeezing Sadie's hand.
Shows Fred's observant and adds a bit more humor about the flirting going on. What does Fred's teasing suggest about how comfortable he is with these social games?
Seems pretty aware, enjoys watching it all. And then Fred tells this wild story. Probably made up.
About being sick for a week because some girl he liked flirted with someone else.
Yeah. And the others' reactions? It kind of sheds light on ideas about romance, heartbreak. Maybe a bit of drama was expected, or at least entertaining for you to read about.
Fred's story does a few things, right? It's funny, maybe deflects from Sadie, and kind of jokes about how seriously people took romance. What can you figure out from how the others react?
Seems like they buy into the drama a bit, or enjoy the story anyway. But importantly, Evelyn gives Fred this knowing look.
Ah, yes. She knows he doesn't really care about Sadie that way.
It shows a deeper connection between them, right? Beyond the flirting and stories.
Definitely, an unspoken understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story shifts again. Fred decides to enter the professional skating race.
But not for glory.
Yeah.
His reason is entirely, well, good.
Right. Totally altruistic. He wants to win the prize money for a widow who lives near the lake. He even uses a fake name, AP Skates.
That really shows his character, doesn't it? Competing against pros secretly just to help someone. What does that add to how you see Fred?
Just reinforces that he's not only brave, but also really compassionate, a strong moral compass.
And he wins. Easily. But Terry and the girls don't realize it's him at first.
And when Evelyn figures it out, her reaction is really emotional, surprised. It's quite touching.
Her outburst really shows how much she cares about him, right? And maybe how worried she was. The surprise makes it more dramatic, too.
Yeah, highlights his humility as well. What does her reaction clearly tell you about her feelings?
Deep care, admiration for sure. And then, to top it off, Fred gives the prize money to Evelyn to deliver to the widow.
Which kind of completes that whole generous act. He trusts Evelyn with it, strengthens their bond, and sticks to helping the less fortunate. What's the overall effect of all these good deeds on how you perceive Fred?
He comes across as almost impossibly good and capable, honestly. But wait, there's more. His talents aren't just skating and rescuing.
No, he promises Terry's little brother a show. Something to rival a play called The Hidden Hand.
And this little promise turns into a big neighborhood event.
It does. It starts small, but suddenly loads of kids turn up. Shows Fred's popularity, maybe? And gives you a sense of community entertainment.
What does that reliance on local talent and informal shows tell you about entertainment back then?
Probably simpler times, more community-focused fun. The turnout actually surprises Fred.
But he pulls it off. He does ventriloquism, makes Evelyn's pony seem to talk.
And not just talk, but reveal that Terry has a crush on Mary. Which surprises everyone, especially a blushing Mary.
Huh. That's pretty mischievous.
Yeah.
Shows his hidden talents and his sense of humor again. What do the kids' reactions tell you? They were amazed, right?
Totally amazed. Suggests they were probably easier to impress back then, maybe less exposed to elaborate entertainment. He then does animal imitations, sleight of hand tricks.
And the kids are convinced it's actual magic.
It really shows his versatility as an entertainer. He's brave, athletic, and can put on a show. What does his willingness to do all this for the kids reveal about him?
Shows a really kind, playful side.
Yeah.
Using his skills just to make people happy, the fun continues right up to dinner.
The talking roast goose. Another ventriloquism prank, this time on Mr. Olcott.
Mr. Olcott is totally bewildered at first, right? Before figuring it out.
Yeah, but he takes it well, finds it amusing eventually. It's a lighthearted end to the visit. What does this prank suggest about practical jokes back then? Were they okay?
Seems like harmless ones were fine, a source of fun. Mr. Olcott even suggests Fred do it publicly.
But Fred says no. Prefers private surprises. Which fits him, right?
Definitely. He's not after fame for his tricks or his bravery. He briefly explains the rescue too, saying he knew the danger but just had to act.
What does that lack of desire for the spotlight suggest about the values Fred represents?
Sincerity, maybe. Doing things for the right reason, not for applause. The story wraps up with Fred and Terry leaving on a train.
Joined by a theatrical company, hinting at more adventures. And there's that extra bit, too.
Right, the letters from P. Adolphus Sweetcake, the dude. A totally different funny take on socializing and courtship.
Yeah, it gives you a broader comedic look at the era's social life
Yeah.
and the list of other work and win titles.
What does that list tell you about what young readers liked?
This gets a real taste for adventure, heroes, maybe stories with a moral lesson tucked inside.
So let's wrap up this deep dive into Fred Fearnot's Pluck. What are the big takeaways for you, the learner? It really does feel like this simple story opens a window onto that time.
Absolutely. You've seen these ideals of heroism, big rescues, but also small kindnesses, generosity.
Sportsmanship is there, but also that playful competition.
Right. And the social interactions, the gifts, the way they courted each other, those big community skating events, they're also revealing about the culture. Plus family dynamics, entertainment.
And Fred himself, he seems to embody so much of what they valued or wanted young men to value. Pluck, skill, humor, and a solid moral compass.
He's brave, capable, but also kind, generous. What does his character suggest about the aspirations for young men then?
He's definitely presented as a role model. Courage, ingenuity, helping others. Even his fun side doesn't make him seem less good.
What parts of Fred might have really appealed to young readers looking for maybe guidance?
Maybe that mix of action hero and just nice guy, someone fun but also dependable. It's amazing how much detail about leisure those skating parties and social stuff is packed in.
And the humor keeps it light, balancing the danger with fun for you, the reader.
It manages to be thrilling and entertaining. A vivid picture of a time when community and being outdoors seemed so important. What aspects of that might seem familiar or really strange to you today?
That's a great question to think about. So here's a final thought for you to mull over. How might stories like Fred Fearnot have shaped what young people back then aimed for, what they expected of themselves and others?
Then how does that compare or contrast sharply with the media aimed at young people today?
That's a really key question for you to reflect on. Comparing the values in these old stories to modern ones, well, it tells you a lot about how things change or maybe stay the same.
We definitely encourage you to explore this era more, maybe even find more of the Work and Win series if you can. There are probably tons more nuggets about the past hidden in these simple-seeming tales.
For sure. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.